So guys, today I feel like taking a trip down memory lane. And let's talk about the first time I ever rode a motorcycle. I was 18 years old. I just graduated high school. And my friend and I have been talking about getting bikes, or how much we actually were interested in bikes. My friend Tim, that's his name, he's actually was a lot more interested than I was in it. We were both kind of at that point where we wanted to have fast, fun vehicles. You know what I'm saying? We had been into cars, but cars are really expensive, especially when you're a high school student or you're just getting out of high school. To get a fast car, it costs a lot of money. You guys know it costs a lot of money, but if we had $4,000, you can get a motorcycle, and basically there's nothing on the street that's going to touch a motorcycle except for a Lambo or some shit like that, right? So one day Tim gives me a call and he says he wants to go look at bikes. And this is I'm like, okay, let's go down there. So I pick him up in my car. We drive down to a dealership in Clearwater, Florida. So the type of bikes that we were interested in were sport bikes, of course. I mean, if you're young, they look fast, they go fast. They're everything that you're kind of wanted. It's kind of what we were infatuated about with motorcycles to begin with. We start looking at two models. He is particularly interested in the Honda CBR F3 600. And my eyes were kind of looking at the Yamaha YZF 600. And this is before the time that they even had R6s. These things were still YZFs, and they were not called 600 double Rs. They were F3 and YZF. Both 600s. I like the YZF because it was blue, it was beautiful looking, but after we've been there for about, let's say 30 minutes or so, Tim just comes back with the keys to the CBR 600 F3. It's a blue, no, it's not blue, it's red and white, yellow, and black CBR. Now, this is back in the day where paint jobs were really crazy on motorcycles. Paint jobs on motorcycles right now are kind of just boring. They're one or two colors with an accent, not crazy graphics like back in the day. Well, except for Honda. Honda still kind of does it. The guy lets him go for a test ride, I guess, around the parking lot. He has no motorcycle license at all. He's never ridden a bike before in his life. Now, you're probably wondering why I'm talking so much about him. Well, he's the one that buys this bike. He doesn't tell his parents. We bring it back to my house, and he's like, hey, can you keep this bike here until I find a good time to break it to my parents? Well, literally that time took a year before he broke it to his parents. So this bike stayed at my house, and I guess it's the favor for letting him keep it at my house, my parents' house, was that I could ride it whenever I wanted to. Oh, and by the way, my parents flipped shit when they saw that bike in the house, and I was like, no, it's not mine, it's Tim's. Anyways, it didn't really matter. So the first time I get on it, the first thing I remember is it being incredibly... Oh wait, you're probably wondering how it got to the house. Tim rode it from the bike shop in Clearwater to Seminole, Florida, which is a good 30-40 minute bike ride on some pretty busy roads, and he'd never ridden a motorcycle before. And I don't really even think he knew how to drive manual transmission that well. His car was not manual transmission. He didn't fall. He made it back. He probably stalled out 3 times or so, which is fine. Got back to my place. We get it on my street, and I go to take it for a ride. And the first impression that I had on the bike is, one, this bitch is heavy. I think it was around 400 pounds or so, maybe a little bit more. I think it's it weighed more than this bike. It weighed more than the FZ09. And it was a lot heavier than I thought. You don't understand how heavy a motorcycle, 400 pounds, really is until you actually try to handle one. Second thing I realized is my feet don't touch the ground, and I'm leaned very forward. Like I'm basically in like an L shape on my tippy toes, leaned over on something that's very heavy between my legs. That's not a comfortable thing. Like you feel like, I felt like at least like not in control of this thing. This was a not cool feeling. Anyways, I get going down the street and I'm like, whoa, wow, man, this is cool. This is badass. And we weren't going to leave the neighborhood or anything. By the time I got to the first stop sign at the end of my neighborhood, I actually have to come to a stop. I do that. And again, like, I don't know anything. And again, I don't know anything about bikes. This is like a new weird feeling. This thing is really big and heavy, and I can't flat foot, and I'm bent over, and I stop, and I just don't have it balanced. And it freaking falls over. It tips over. I tipped over his bike like the first night he got it. So that is literally my first experience on a motorcycle, my first ride on a motorcycle, going about a quarter mile at 10 miles per hour and then dumping it in the street. I felt like such an asshole, such a dick about it, but he didn't really even care. It didn't hurt nothing. It just fell over. He came over to actually help me pick it up because, again, 400 pounds is really heavy. We went and picked it up because I didn't know how you were supposed to properly pick up a motorcycle. I didn't know that trick where you, like, you know, basically lean behind it, pick up on the handlebar and the tail light, and basically do like a squat. Now, when I started riding in Florida, you didn't have to take the MSF safety course. To get your learner's, like, temporary whatever license to ride a motorcycle on the street, you didn't even need anything. All you needed to do was have your regular driver's license, go down and take a written test, and then you have 1 month that you can ride around with, and another month to like schedule your actual road test. So basically, Florida used to let you go on the road on a motorcycle with no training whatsoever. And plus, you don't have to wear a helmet in Florida, which you still do not have to wear a helmet in Florida. But I spent most afternoons, like every day, practicing on this thing, riding it around the neighborhood. I mean, I rode it more than he did. And there was some scary moments. I'll say, like, there was a point where there was one time where I got to the end of one street and I was actually had to go and cross another. And for whatever reason, like, I didn't stop. Like, you know those videos where the bike lurches forward and you're like, why did that guy just, like, stop? Like, why did, when he wanted to stop, he went forward instead? I actually did that, and I cut in front of a car that was, like, in the street. I was really, really lucky that he did not run into me, did not hit me. And that, guys, that's what made me go like, okay, I really have to learn, like, how to ride. I can't just try to figure it out on my own. And that is my first experience on a motorcycle. I'm sure some of you guys might have expected it to be glorious. Mine was just full of fail. But it didn't make me stop. It made me love freaking bikes. So after 4 bikes, a bunch of years, I still love riding. I'm still a shit rider. But hey, I'm never gonna stop. So I'd like to hear about your guys' first riding experience. Were you as shit as I was? Were you worse? Or were you just like awesome? Doesn't have to be a street bike, it can be a dirt bike, it can be whatever. Just your first time on a motorcycle. Leave it down in the comments below. But until next time, guys, I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye. What are you guys still doing here? Click that subscribe button. It's not gonna hurt you. Go ahead, click it right here. Go on, keep doing it here. Click now!